I told my daughter I wouldn't attend her wedding if her biological father came. She says I'm stuck in the past, but she doesn't know what really happened in the past. I 50F, daughter 24F. For some background, around 24 years ago, I was essayed by a close friend of mine and got pregnant by the encounter. I was inconsolable for months after the incident. To make it worse, I found out I was pregnant at about 20 weeks, and where I lived at the time, it was illegal to get an abortion after the first trimester. My husband had been my rock and my unwavering support during one of the most challenging periods of my life, and I truly don't know how I would have managed without him. When I found out I was pregnant, he assured me that I had options. I could put the child up for adoption, or I could keep the baby, and he would raise her as if she were his own. I decided against adoption, but raising the child was incredibly difficult. I am of mixed Polish and German heritage, while my husband is half German and half Russian. Both of us have pale skin, light hair, and blue eyes, and we are both fairly tall. I'm about 178 centimeters, around 5 feet 10 inches, and he is 191 centimeters, about 6 feet 3 inches. Our daughter Luna, however, is about 160 centimeters, 5 feet 3 inches, with dark hair and a brown complexion like her biological father. People often made snide remarks about me being unfaithful, as it was obvious Luna was not my husband's biological child. This was especially hard when Luna was young because she looked so much like her biological father. My husband took on the primary caregiving role because I experienced traumatic flashbacks when I saw her face, a stark reminder of the assault I endured. Although these episodes lessened as she grew older, I still suffered from panic attacks, particularly when she wore boys' clothes and kept her hair short. Due to my frequent panic attacks, Luna grew closer to my husband than to me. He often gave her more attention and gifts than her siblings, perhaps as a way to compensate for my emotional distance. We never told Luna about her origins, fearing she would feel different from her siblings. Instead, I told her that her biological father and I had a falling out and never spoke again. About 2 years ago, Luna took a DNA test and discovered a relative in the system. This relative facilitated contact between Luna and her biological father. Despite my protests, Luna and he began to communicate. He wanted to speak with me, but I refused, telling Luna that her father and I should never be in the same room together. Now, Luna is getting married to a wonderful young man, and with some COVID restrictions lifted, she can have a decently sized wedding. Initially, my husband was supposed to walk her down the aisle, but a severe accident left him in a wheelchair, unable to walk until he regains his strength. This disrupted Luna's idea of a picture-perfect wedding, leading her to invite her biological father to take on the honor of walking her down the aisle instead. This invitation not only brought Huzesemi into our lives but also deeply disrespected the man who raised her. Although someone could have pushed my husband down the aisle in his wheelchair, Luna felt it wouldn't fit the wedding's vibe. My husband was shocked and deeply hurt by her decision, and I was furious. I have an intense, visceral hatred for that man, and I made it clear to Luna that I wouldn't be anywhere near him. Luna insisted that this is what she wanted, leaving me no choice but to tell her that I wouldn't attend if he was there. She accused me of clinging to the past, but I explained that she had no understanding of what had happened between her biological father and me. Though I regret the harshness of my words and recognize that Luna couldn't know the full story because I never told her, I firmly believe that my wishes should be respected if I say I don't want to be in the same room as that man. I have come to terms with Luna contacting her biological father, but I want nothing to do with him. Moreover, it's deeply hurtful and disrespectful to replace the man who raised her with someone she has barely known for 2 years, especially over circumstances beyond his control. Update. Before I get started on the update, I have a few things I want to address. A lot of people have questioned me on why I did not tell my daughter that she was a product of SA. The only answer is that I was ashamed of myself. For some context, before I got married to my husband, I actually was very close friends with my attacker. We grew up together in a small community and our families were close, our parents even wanted us to get together. He was always interested in me, but I didn't give him a chance until university. I broke it off with him and started dating my husband, but I never cut him off because we were very close. He invited me over to drink, this was normal for us, and when I started getting a bit tipsy, he essayed me. I was very traumatized by the situation and tried to get him jailed, but I couldn't. He had a very good reputation, so everyone believed him, even my own mother, when he said I willingly came over and did it with him. I eventually stopped pursuing because of the social pressure, which only got worse when I found out I was pregnant. I eventually left the place with my husband and kids to live somewhere else. After I gave birth, my husband suggested therapy, but I was scared of being judged again, so I decided to bury it and try to forget about it. I just realized now that it was the worst way to go about this, but it's the only way I knew how to honestly. On to the update. After reading all the advice I'd gotten, I decided that I should stop running away and tell her everything. I called her to come over and she did. I first apologized for yelling at her for her suggestion because in her mind, it was an innocent suggestion. I told her that I wasn't angry at her, but how fast she was willing to replace her father because he was in a wheelchair, and that anger was compounded because she brought up her genetic father. I apologized again for acting childish and not like an adult. She asked me why I am so against her genetic father being in the same vicinity as I am, and I just told her everything from our initial friendship to her forced conception. She didn't believe me, like some of you predicted, but I can get a copy of the records of the court case and offered them to her if she needed a look. She looked stunned, like she wanted to believe me but couldn't. I apologized for keeping all this from her because I didn't know how to bring it up. She told me she didn't believe me and would confirm with her genetic father, so I told her to take the time she needed to process all this. Later that day, she came again, crying and apologizing for not believing me. I held her and cried and apologized too. It was kind of therapeutic. We had a long chat and I did feel closer to her. When we were done, she said she wanted to take me out to a surprise to help me feel better in a couple of days, which I happily agreed to. I went to see her yesterday in this little restaurant with a patio that had a private pay-for-use area for a maximum of 4 people, due to COVID. As she ran up to me and gave me a hug, she led me to the patio, where her biological father stood. She told me he was here to apologize and start my healing journey. I just wanted to leave, but he grabbed my hand and all those memories I tried to repress just came back out. I started having a panic attack and lost balance, to which he tried to help me keep my balance, which worsened everything. I honestly don't remember how I left, but I ended up in my car just sobbing. I called my elder son to pick me up because I was not fit to drive at that moment. Today, my daughter called me upset that I ruined her surprise, but I was extremely upset with her. I asked her why she did that when she knows everything that happened between me and him, and she tried to use the excuse of my healing journey, but I wasn't having it. She admitted that she wanted me to get used to him because he's gonna be walking her down the aisle along with my husband and doing the daddy-daughter dance. I told her that while I loved her and respect her decision to be with him, I am not willing to be anywhere he is. She started complaining about how she wants all her family to be there, and I'm still not forgiving, but I hung up the phone. My husband is aware of everything and stands by me of not going to her wedding, but I don't want this. If my other children were to know, they would stand by me and tell the rest of their extended family, which is going to lead to my daughter getting disowned by the family. There is no need to give me advice on this because I will be seeking professional aid. Update 2. Hello everyone, it has been a while since I last posted on this website. I have a few new updates for everyone that has been asking me. I apologize for not getting to everyone in my direct messages, but I really appreciate everyone sending me support through those tough times. I would like to share some good news before going on about what happened with my daughter. My husband is able to walk again, albeit with a cane, but it is progress. We have been going to physical therapy to help strengthen his legs after his accident. It's good to see him happy and walking again. I've also been to therapy and met this wonderful and sweet therapist. My therapist is so patient and kind. Since my husband and I started together a few weeks ago, she has been extremely helpful. Bless her soul and all those who recommended therapy. I would have missed out on such an experience, so my thanks go out to all of you. Like most of you advised, my therapist also advised me to tell my other children about what went on between my youngest. For reference, I have 3 other children, 30M, 27F, 27M. My eldest boy is the only one that had a slight idea of what happened, but the other 2 were left unaware. I was quite scared and anxious to tell them what happened, especially because my mother and other family members initially reacted negatively. I invited them over around 2 weeks ago for a family dinner and told them everything that happened with the conception of my youngest to what happened recently. They were all silent and stared at me, so I became a little nervous until my daughter started crying. It was so upsetting for her, and my 2 sons were pissed off at my youngest and her father. They asked why I didn't tell them earlier, and I told them I was just scared of how they could have reacted. My husband took them out of the dining room to talk while my eldest daughter just cried together. When my boys and husband came back, they apologized for leaving early and left. My eldest daughter wanted to spend the night with me, but early in the morning, she left with her brothers to do whatever. I didn't hear anything from them until last Wednesday. I was on Facebook when I saw my elder daughter's post calling out my younger daughter for not only ignoring the man who raised her but siding with who essayed her mother and traumatizing her. My boys made similar posts as well, dragging her name through the mud. I had so many direct messages, but I didn't want anything to do with them, so I deleted the app off my phone. Since I don't like people knowing about my personal life, I asked my kids to take down the post. They said they did, but I haven't re-downloaded the app to find out. My daughter's fiancé came to my house with his mother to apologize. He told me he broke off the engagement because he couldn't be with someone who treated their parents like that. His mother let me know how disgusted she was with my daughter's actions, and someone like that would never be a part of her family. I was honestly stunned by all the support I have received. It's one thing to receive support online, but receiving support in real life was surreal for me. I am a bit disappointed because I wanted my daughter's former fiancé to join the family, as he is a lovely and sweet boy, but he has boundaries in a relationship that my daughter unfortunately crossed. As for my youngest, she is furious with me. She sent me a nasty voicemail saying that I ruined her life. Her friends and fiancé basically cut her off. Needless to say, I felt terribly sorry because I had attempted to avoid this situation at all costs. I went through what she is experiencing, and I know exactly what it feels like. I told my therapist about this, and she told me that the difference is that while I was the victim, my daughter brought it on herself. My therapist is probably right, but I can't stop this feeling of dread. I tried to call my daughter, but once I heard her father on the line, I hung up. He took it upon himself to let me know that my daughter is depressed because of my actions. I feel terrible for treating my daughter like this. My husband says that I should focus on myself, and I'm trying to, but I just can't stop worrying. I don't think that my daughter is safe when she's with her biological father.